Okay, so in this video today, I'll be going over two different decks for the Minotaur archetype that came with set 3, which is essentially the making pun off of the different meats for like sirloins, chuck, and then so forth. And then so we'll be going over two different deck lists. Both of the deck lists will be in the description below for the full-on deck list. And then I'll go over the two different ones. So the first one is we're going to go over the first one will be more of a budget build because it's mostly only 1 stars, 2 stars, and then a couple cards from the starter deck for the new one that just came out. And then the other one will include other cards from other rarities that you can replace. But personally, I played with these a little bit. The budget version, I actually like a lot more. It just plays a lot smoother than the other one because the synergies are a little bit different. But then, some of the cards that you would put in it of like high rarities don't like necessarily make it much better. So again, for these ones, we're going to be using the Apprentice Ruler. So with this one, there are certain cards in here that we need to facilitate our damage. So that's why we have to use Drive Rule in this one. And then unlike the reason you don't want to use like with Dreadnought is even though it does give you like a bigger counter space, it's not necessarily needed, and then it also is harder to try to get them out when you're only driving one card at a time, especially because sometimes you want to drive the certain cards in certain orders to like set up the combo, which is to bring them outside of the damage. So to start, we have 4 of the sirloin, which is the level 3. So all of them so the level 3 brings out the level 2 from damage, and then the level 2 brings out the level 1. Whenever they're special summoned, or whenever they come into play outside of when they come into play not from damage. So that's if you play them normally, or if they come from your graveyard, or if you special summon them in a different way. And then there are a few ways that we'll be able to special summon them in this deck. So the Minotaur one, this one is a pretty beefy creature itself because it is a 5/5 with 3 strike. And potentially could become a 4 strike. And then one of the biggest things in this budget version is that they are all of the creatures in here are space peeps, because we're going to be using some synergies for space peeps. And then again, we have 4 of the chuck. This one again is really good because its ability to, at the beginning of your attack phase, you can rest it while it's in the attack zone, and you can destroy essentially their center defender slot. So it doesn't matter how big the HP of that unit is. So for example, if say they had a flying spaghetti monster already there, you can use this to just instantly destroy it. You don't have to worry about hitting enough power. And then we also have, lastly, for the main Minotaurs is the Shank. And this is the one that either touchdown or overdrive, you can essentially put another Minotaur from your graveyard into your damage and then heal one. So essentially lets you swap, which is similar to like Schrodinger's cat from the first set. So with like Chuck, the only ones you really want to put in is like other copies of itself or like the level 2, so that way you can have them come out. So next card we're running is 4 of Invading Martians. So this is from the first set. So again, this is a Space Peep. So this is why the whole deck is revolving around Space Peeps. Is that we're trying to control the board by destroying all of our opponent's creatures. So this is that when you drive it, if you have 2 Space Peeps, you'll be able to destroy all of your opponent's units. And one of the things that's about this deck is because a lot of the units are not very powerful, there's a good chance that they're going to leave them alone. So on your next turn, if you drive like another unit in this one, you play that one first, and then this one will trigger and then destroy the rest of their units. It's also a 5/4/2, which is not the greatest stats, but again, it is mostly for board wipe. So this is another reason why this deck wants to be a Apprentice deck, because you want to drive 2 cards at once rather than like drive this first in like say a Dreadnought deck, and then you drive like the second card, which would be the second unit for this effect. Next we have our first counter. This is for Star Kraken. So again, this is Space Peeps. Its overdrive ability is to take 2 Space Peeps from your graveyard and then put them into your damage and then heal 2 damage out. So essentially this is a way to put some of your Minotaurs into your damage as well, aside from having Shank. It also has 0 strike. So again, this is another one of those units for like Invading Martian that this card might stay alive. But if not, usually you would just shove this into your defensive zone. We also have 4 Space Yurei. So again, this one is where it deals you a damage whenever it comes to play. It's also a force reveal, so you have to play it. But it'll do you a damage, and then when it dies or when it leaves the field, you'll be able to heal a life. So this is another way to potentially trigger by damaging one of the Minotaurs and then like healing something else out that has no real importance. Next we have 4 Space Lizardman. Again, another space peep. In overdrive, it just becomes a 5 attacker, which 5 power is usually like the threshold you want to hit. Next we have 4 of Martian Orc. So this one is also another space peeps. And the reason why I'm running this, aside from like level reasons, is because it has 2 strike as a level 0. So because of cards like Martian, and then a card later on we'll go over, we're going to be board wiping our opponent's field, or even with like the level 2 Minotaur, of just destroying their center slot instantly. It's free that we can just constantly swing in with like 2 strike attackers, so we can try to rush down our opponent. We also have 4 of the Neptunian Yuki-Onna, which is also another space peeps. Again, just another vanilla 0 cost to kind of just fill in those leftover slots. We have another counter. We have 2 of the Showdown, Adriano versus Shadowhand. So this counter is you can choose a space peep from your or future folk of level 1 or less from your grave and special summon it. So this is mostly where you could special summon like any of the ones like the Star Kraken, or sorry, not Star Kraken. You could summon like Space Yurei to kind of just use it to kind of facilitate more damage, or as well as just like bring a blocker into your center slot. But the reason why this is also really good is that for the actual ability, if you play it, you'll always it's just to choose space peeps or future folk. For this deck, you'll always choose space peeps. But essentially, you look at top 4 cards, and then you look for up to 2 units that equal level 2 or less. So usually you'll take like a level 2 and a 0, or you could take 2 1s, or even like 2 0s if you wanted. But any combination that their levels equal to 2, and then you special summon them, and then if any of them have touchdown or overdrive abilities, you can actually trigger them. Next we're running 4 Black Hole Alert. So this is another card that on Force Reveal, when you draw it, you have to play it. But essentially just destroys all of your opponent's units. So again, this is essentially we're running 8 board wipes for our opponent's field, so that way we can just use our units to just keep attacking in and try to finish them off as quickly as possible. And then we have 4 Space Cave for another counter. So this card is just very good from the starter deck that lets us reduce 2 damage. But the main part is for the counter, because depending how your opponent orders their attacks, you could end up having resting their unit, their ruler, which usually is one of the bigger swings. And then we have 2 unexpected wormholes. So again, because our units are usually not the greatest, sometimes our opponents will just ignore them. But then we can use this. If we actually have to play it, we can rest one of their units during counters, or if we play it, we can have them redirect an attack of a unit to one of our side units that we don't really care about. And then lastly, just to fill out the slots, we have 2 shields up just to give us a little bit more survivability, since our opponents will probably be ignoring our units and just attacking us directly. So that's it for the budget version. And then, again, the deck lists for each of these will be in the description below. But then we'll move on directly to the regular version. But again, this version I feel is a little bit more consistent with like swapping them out. Because of mainly of like Star Kraken is one of the biggest ones for swapping your damage out, that the deck actually functions a lot smoother. So then again, so we have another apprentice deck. So this one should go a little faster because a lot of the cards are very similar. So again, we have 4 of the main level 3 Minotaur, 4 of the level 2 Minotaur, and then 4 of the level 1 Minotaur. We're also running 1 Scoob, or known as Schrodinger, the cat out of the box. So this card is easily replaceable with any other legend. Like you could run the level 2 Samurai from set 3 Musashi, but again that level will alter your like ratio of different cards. But this one, because we're going to be swapping cards in and out of our damage zone, this card can be helpful. Where if we played it normally, we can send it to damage to kind of use it as a defense. We also have 4 Zahira, Nature's Emissary. So this one is on touchdown or overdrive. You can special summon 1 beast of level 1 or less from your graveyard, and then at the end of the main phase it'll like die. but usually you'll use it for Genesis summoning. So it has both Genesis and Abyss summoning, but we're using it for Genesis summoning for another beast. So all of the units in here, so the main like Minotaurs are all beasts. So this one is focusing more on the beast attribute, whereas like the other version was focusing more on space peeps. So with this one, you can usually tutor out any of like the level 2 or 3, and then usually because they're special summon not from the damage, they'll trigger their ability to special summon the lower version out to the field. Next we have 4, another Schrodinger. This is the Spirit of the Singularity. So this one is used for its overdrive ability, where again we can swap damage out. You can also, if you like drive this and Zahira, you can have this use its ability to change itself to a beast, and then you can shuffle it back into the deck, so that we can use it later on. Also, it's 5 toughness, and your opponent can't like interact with it, with like events or abilities, so they have to actually like beat through it. And if it's 5 toughness, again, usually that's like the threshold that you want units to get over. We're also running a Crime Knot package. So this one is running 2 Biocorpse Workinators. So again, this is one of the set concealment units that you can summon, but again, it's another beast that we can bring back with Zahira. So that's why we're running this one, because this is the one that's more likely to be used out of all of them, where this one is just, you just have to be attacked for you to use this concealment face down, whereas the other ones are a little bit more dependent on the type of decks you face. We also run 2 of the murdercorn. So this one that destroys the level 0 or less when it's special summoned from the graveyard. So again, because Zahira special summons beasts from the graveyard, this ability will trigger and then destroy, and then you can use it to shuffle back in and tutor for one of the Minotaurs. And then 3 hollowbear. So this one is, the reason we have 3 of this one is because this one destroys sets, and then set destruction is probably the more important of the other abilities from when we special summon them. We're also running 4 Ragdoll Cat Sith. So again, this one can change its level to level 1 as a familiar. It's also a beast that can be summoned with Zahira, so we can get like a level 3 or level 2 if we want. As well as, you know, as a defense, if it gets countered, you can just put it in the defense zone. And then, so your opponent has to like waste an attack if this gets summoned before the last attack. We also have 2 Beastfolk Barbarians. So again, just another beast, but then 5 power to just attack through. And then 4 Space Lizardman. So again, this one is just to like put damage into our damage and kind of like try to hit Minotaurs and put them into our damage zone. And then we also have 4 Well of the Id. So this is a standard action from set 2. That says choose 2 cards in our damage zone and then put them into the graveyard. And then you deal yourself 2 damage. So again, we're trying to like sift out cards that aren't Minotaurs. And then trying to like hit them into there, as well as this can also be used to potentially heal you if you hit any counter abilities. We're also running 4 Wall of Shields. This could be replaced with like Shields Up. It's the same card that just helps us survive by preventing an attack when we're directly attacked. And then lastly, we have 4 Space Cave. So again, this card is again good from that we had in the other version, as well as being level 0. So this just helps protect us from, you know, in order to survive, since we're playing more of a longer game and just trying to you know, use the Minotaurs to kind of beat down our opponent. So this one isn't as, I felt it wasn't as consistent as the other one, because sometimes like you'll drive Zahira and then you have like nothing else, you don't drive it with anything else, or it's like the first turn of the game and you have Zahira, but there's no damage, you didn't have time to set up your damage, so that's why it's a little weird. I tried to make this deck with like energy ruler, so like Overlord was one of the bigger ones to look at. The only problem with that is that a lot of the abilities that lets us switch out our damage, so like with Schrodinger's cat, the level 1 counter, or the level 0 from the other deck, Star Kraken, this one is an overdrive ability only, so a lot of the main damage swapping cards, at least they give us choice, isn't available to us in energy-based decks. And then one thing too that a lot of these that these decks could run would be Schrodinger's Cat, the event card, the level 3 from the first set. The only problem with that one is that we mostly want that ability for the swapping out cards, so that's why we run like the level 1 Schrodinger. But then we don't really necessarily need the special summon the unit from the graveyard or from the damage zone, because they don't actually trigger any of our Minotaurs, and then so a lot of our units aren't actually taking advantage of that. And because it is a level 3, it does take up a lot of our cost space. So that's why usually having just level 1 Schrodinger Cat is usually more than enough as like our swapping unit, as well as the Minotaur can also put the unit into the damage as well. So we just have to get them in to the damage itself. So with that, again, the deck list for both of them will be in the description below. And again, I'll be trying to get out more videos of different deck lists. And again, if you have other deck archetypes that you want to see, you know, you can put some in the comments, and then I'll take a look at them, and I'll try to see what I can do about getting up different deck lists. But with that, thank you for watching, and then I'll see you guys next time.